You know what? Fuck it. I'm not doing it.
Baby, you light up my world like nobody else.
Turn that fucking shit off. Okay? You know what? Fine. I will do it. Just please stop reminding me of that god-awful era of my goddamn childhood. What is up, my beautiful people? My name is G-Vans and welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be talking about the album by Harry Styles entitled Fine Line. This is the second studio album by Harry Styles, came out back in late 2019, and it came to us about 2 years since his self-entitled studio album came out back in 2017, and I didn't hear that one. You know, I only heard the Sign of the Time song, and I can't lie, that is a pretty dope song. It has that little like classic 70s rock. You know, it kind of gives me those David Bowie and Elton John vibes. And I'm sure that a lot of people, especially the former One Direction fans, were really excited when that album came out because some people would say that Zayn was like the most popular one, but it's really obvious that Harry Styles has always been the fucking like favorite out of that whole group. Ah yes, One Direction. It's been a very long ass time since I've said that name out loud. You know, I will never forget when I was in middle school and One Direction started blowing up for the first time, especially because my sister was a big ass Directioner. Like, I don't think there's a single person in the world that was a bigger fan of One Direction than my sister was when she was in middle school. You know, that was the first concert she went to. She went to go see One Direction. She was in like the second row, I think. It's fucking weird. And she would always play their songs out loud. Every new album that came out, like 3 of those fucking songs from that album just like were played out loud in this house all the time. So I am a bit ashamed, boys, to admit that I know at least 10 One Direction songs perfectly in the back of my fucking head. All right, I know the tune, I know the fucking like how it starts, how it ends. Like, you know, it's just those things that is gonna stay stuck in my head for a very long time now, and I don't know if I'm okay with it yet. Now, at the time, I was very ignorant, very annoying, and I was that kind of person that said if it wasn't hip-hop, then it's fucking weird and it's garbage. And although I still am not a big fan of pop music, you know, I was never really a big fan of pop music to begin with, and, you know, that's still a really true statement now. But I've come to realize over the past few years that pop music is actually pretty decent if it's done right. And honestly, after hearing this album, I gotta say that Harry Styles becoming a solo artist was probably the best decision that this man has ever made for his fucking music career. You know, I know a lot of people would say that Zayn probably had the best solo career because he was the first one to leave a while back. But honestly, you know, all Zayn had was that one song called Pillow Talk that was pretty much a fucking pussy anthem, and, you know, having sex out loud so the neighbors can get mad at you. But honestly, I don't think you can really compare Harry Styles to Zayn because Harry, like, has had like a dramatic fucking change ever since he left One Direction. On this album, Harry Styles is pretty much on a journey to self-discovery, which means this album is one big ass relatable album to those of you that still don't know what to do with your lives, including myself. I just turned 21 and I'm still really lost in my fucking life. So like I said before, I've never heard the first album that Harry Styles came out with when he became a solo artist, but I did hear that one song, Sign of the Times, and I really enjoyed the production value of it, the classic 70s rock, the Elton John and David Bowie combined like vibes I got from it. And this album is no different whatsoever because I think that the production value on this album is absolutely fucking perfect. I'll be honest, I came into this album fully expecting a basic ass, you know, pop album that is like any other pop album that I've heard in the past, but honestly, instead of that, I got a variety of diverse songs that sound fucking different from each other, and they're honestly really enjoyable. The acoustic classic guitar that you hear throughout the whole album, you know, mixed with a soulful piano, just made this album sound so fucking amazing. And, you know, with overall the variety of different, you know, glossy pop hits I hear throughout this whole album was really great. And just overall, the production value on this album was just truly amazing, and it made the album sound not boring. You know, I actually found myself really excited to hear, you know, the next track after the other, and you know, I just overall like felt really excited just going into this whole thing blind. But besides the overall amazing production value throughout the whole album, Harry Styles himself is the biggest highlight as he shines on his own with no features, and he truly just kills it throughout this whole album, which I'm not really surprised surprised because I know for a lot of people, like my sister at least, you know, she said that Harry Styles is by far the best person from One Direction. You know, even after Zayn left, you know, she told me that Harry Styles was the only reason why she still like kept hearing them after Zayn left, because Harry was just like the person that carried the band. And that's not to throw shots at anybody else in the group like Zayn and Liam and Louis and fucking Niall, because in my opinion, I do think that Niall was the best one. You know, that man had so much fucking talent, and you know, he has some really great vocals. So I do think that Niall was like the best person from One Direction from the songs that I've heard at least. But don't tell anybody that, because then I'll look like a pussy for admitting that. Now, obviously, Harry Styles' vocals are really fucking amazing. I mean, this man has obviously, like, changed it up a bit. He got a lot more better from the first One Direction album to, like, now, you know, it just honestly, like, has sounded really great. And I could go on and on about his vocals, but I think we all can agree that this man has the vocals of a fucking angel. But honestly, what really got to me throughout this whole album was the fact that Harry Styles' premium storytelling was really fucking fantastic throughout this whole album. Harry Styles becomes very vulnerable throughout this whole album, which I think is the first time we were able to see that. You know, I know that One Direction has had some pretty sad shit, you know, when they were together, but I think, you know, Harry Styles like really touched on his own feelings on this album. And although I could talk about every track, I do want to talk about 3 of my favorite tracks where I think Harry Styles absolutely fucking delivered. The opening track of the album, called Golden, is enough to right away hook you right into the whole album. That's because that's the song where Harry Styles is sort of trying to find his own identity as a solo artist. You know, he obviously didn't have that much of his own identity in One Direction, because, you know, he just kind of like was just a part of the band. And, you know, now as a solo artist, he obviously wanted to find his own like signature style where people could be reminded of just like Harry Styles instead of, you know, the guy from One Direction. You know, he just really like wanted to find his own identity. And, you know, it makes sense because this song is super experimental. You know, it has all different kinds of sound, you know, that classic 70s, you know, that little bit of 808s, you know, it just had a bunch of like great sounds, and it overall like did reflect on what the album was going to be about moving forward, because the whole album is just a bunch of different experimental and great sounds. And then you get to the track entitled Cherry, and that one is a pretty sad song, and it's because Harry Styles is pretty much opening up about the breakup. You know, I don't really know who it's about. I don't really know much about an artist's like personal life, but whatever happened, you know, obviously he's still really hurt from it. And I was gonna say that this song is pretty much the definition of bitches ain't shit, but it honestly isn't. You know, Harry Styles isn't really like wishing ill on anybody. He isn't wishing anybody like bad luck. You know, he's pretty much, you know, like obviously trying to end it on good terms and sort of explain how he fucked up in the relationship as well. And, you know, how it's not always just like one person's fault. It's always like a two-sided thing that people don't tend to realize. And, you know, it just really teaches you a lesson. And it kind of taught me a lesson, because, you know, I had a lot of vengeful and sort of like spiteful shit that I said back in past relationships after like they broke up with me. And then, you know, looking back on them, you know, I was a really immature fucking kid, you know, when it came to breakups. And, you know, it just sort of like opened my eyes that there were some moments where I was like the biggest problem in a relationship. And, you know, not that many guys like to admit it, but, you know, it's really true. You know, we're fucking stupid sometimes. And if you thought that breakup song was sad, then you ain't seen shit yet, because the following track entitled Falling is the one that fucking broke me, okay? Like that one is where, you know, it's kind of weird. It's kind of like a happy and sad song, you know. I guess the way I would put it is Harry Styles is pretty much, you know, at a moment where he's a lot more happier, because, you know, obviously he is more successful now as a solo artist, and, you know, his music career is going like as good as he wanted it to be. But, you know, there are those moments where you look back on those sad moments and you just sort of like get lost in them. And, you know, it's kind of hard to escape those sad moments when they were a big part of your life. And that's sort of what that song is about. And it just kind of gave me flashbacks on all the terrible shit in my life, you know, how I wished it would have happened. But at the same time, if it didn't happen, then I wouldn't be where I'm at right now, where I'm, you know, in college, you know, trying to follow my dreams and shit. You know, just I'm not as successful as I want to be, you know, right now in my early 20s. But I am pretty happy, you know, sort of mentally where I'm at. And, you know, that's sort of what that song that's the kind of vibe that song gave me. God, am I about to get fucking emotional over Harry Styles' album? God damn, I'm a fucking bitch. Now, admittedly, there might be like maybe 3 songs on this album that I didn't like, but the rest of them are pretty dope. But my absolute favorite is the track entitled She. The track entitled She is pretty much a peaceful song in my opinion. You know, it's a really good song that you can get lost into. You know, it's about 6 minutes long. It's one of the more longer songs on this whole album, and it generally does feel like a sort of classic 70s rock vibe. You know, back in the day when, you know, classic rock had those like really long songs. You know, nowadays, you know, songs are like either 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and just the 6 minute song just gave me a bit of nostalgia. Even though I wasn't around during the 70s era, it just gave me a lot of like not nostalgia. You know, with the ending of it just being like 2 minutes of classic guitar and shit. You know, I just really love that. You know, just like the final 2 minutes of no singing and just hearing that guitar just like really like lets you sink in and just pretty much like lets you be at peace with yourself, if that makes sense. Overall, I may not be a big Harry Styles fan, and I probably will never be, because honestly my sister low-key ruined it when she kept playing their songs over and over back to back. You know, I just kind of like got tired of hearing all of their voices at the time. But honestly, I do gotta appreciate this album for what it is, and that is a really decent, enjoyable album that I recommend to each and every one of you. Yes, each and every one of you, not just the One Direction fans, not just, you know, the pop fans. Every one of you should listen to this album, because if someone like me, who is just a big fan of hip-hop and R&B and shit, you know, if I'm able to enjoy this and find, you know, pretty much nothing negative to say about it, then I think everyone else will enjoy this album too. It is really fantastic, it's really different, and it is not something you would expect from somebody who was a part of One Direction. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review. This album was requested by none other than my sister, so shout out to you, sis. I love you. This is the first album you ever asked me to review, and I should have expected it to be like One Direction related. I guess next up she's probably gonna make me talk about a One Direction album, and I might not say some nice things about that, but we'll see. But anyway, shout out to you, sis. What else do you want me to review next? It can be from any era, from any genre, and it can be from any artist. I don't care. I will listen to it. Just leave them in the comment section down below, or DM me on Instagram, and I will try to get to you as best as I can. And with that being said, don't forget to like, subscribe, click that bell down below, all that good stuff, so you don't miss a single one of my uploads whatsoever. And don't forget to stay happy.
9 in the morning, the man drops his kids off at school.